Welcome to the Renaissance gathering in Washington, D.C. at the World War I Monument. God looked and saw evil looming on the horizon, so much evil and no sign of justice. He could not believe what he saw. Not a soul around to correct this awful situation. So he did it himself, took on the work of salvation, fueled by his own righteousness. He dressed in righteousness, put it on like a suit of armor, with salvation on his head like a helmet, put on judgment like an overcoat, and threw a cloak of passion across his shoulders. He will make everyone pay for what they have done, fury for his foes, just deserts for his enemies. Even the far-off islands will get paid off in full. In the west, they will fear the name of God, and in the east, they will fear the glory of God, for he will arise and arrive like a river in flood stage, whipped to a torrent by the wind of God. Isaiah 59:15 through 19. The principle found in this prophetic passage from Isaiah 59 is an important one for us to understand. Here we see with certainty that there are moments when man so utterly fails to recognize where evil is at work and to act in accordance with God's will and character, that God will have to arise in his power and authority, step out into the earthly arena and accomplish what needs to be done on his own. This teaches us that it is important to be alert, to be willing to recognize quickly when evil is at work, and to respond in the character of God and in accordance with his will. In this passage, we are also taught how God responded to evil. He witnessed what he did and what we should do to prepare for battle. Again, we read what his preparation included. He dressed in righteousness, put it on like a suit of armor, with salvation on his head like a helmet, put on judgment like an overcoat, and threw a cloak of passion across his shoulders. We also see how God changed the course of human history by halting the downward spiral of his own creation with salvation. Salvation is the saving of human beings from sin and its consequences, which include death and separation from God, by Christ's death and resurrection and the justification following this salvation. Righteousness, judgment, and passion. No matter how much society tries to deny this truth, Jesus Christ still has and will continue to have through eternity the greatest influence on humanity. We should never shrink back from judgment. There is a healing purpose in judgment, and in the end, we are offered the opportunity, the incredible opportunity for restoration. God's plan is not to strike out in vindictive, destructive anger. Here God seeks to awaken his people from their complacent compromise with sin and teach them how to administer true justice. Justice is the ability to do what is right, to do the right thing in the reverential fear of God, even when evil confronts us. Being able to administer justice is what separates the good in us from the evil of this world. Justice is the ability to act in righteousness. God seeks to bring his enemies to a place where they will, as their lives experience the fear of God, willingly stop their evil deeds. In this time of judgment, they will learn a deep respect for God's plan of salvation, a reverence for God's holy character, a recognition of his course-correcting judgment, and a humbled response to God's passion for his creation. It is the same in our present darkness in America. An awakened, inspired, well-trained church that is listening for and submitted to God's plan of action can and will make the course correction we need in our country. Here we witness God's dynamic movement in defense of his creation. He rises with salvation in his hand. He is fueled by his righteous character. He brings with him the discipline of holy judgment. His passion ignites the hearts of all who witness his work upon the earth. There is always a payday for evildoers. Isaiah tells us, he will make everyone pay for what they have done. Fury for his foes, just deserts for his enemy. Even the far-off islands will get paid in full. In the west, they will fear the name of God. In the east, they will fear the glory of God, for he will arrive like a river in flood stage, whipped to a torrent by the wind of God. That great wind of God that not only judges, but brings us into a place where we have right relationship with God. For thousands of years, God has witnessed his creation suffering in their self-inflicted peril and has reached out in love. His message has always been consistent. His heart cry for relationship, always with passion, a passion of one who is not willing to allow his creation to stay out of reach of his loving care. After the judgment, after the restoration, he gives us a promise and a hope. Psalm 22, 27 through 31 says, don't ever quit. From the four corners of the earth, people are coming to their senses. They're running back to God. Long lost families are falling on their knees before him. God has taken charge. From now on, he has the last word. All the power mongers are before him, worshiping. All the poor and powerless also worshiping. Along with those who never got it together, they're worshiping. Our children and their children will get in on this as the word is passed along from parent to child. Babies not yet conceived will hear the good news that God does what he says. I pray today that you will take these moments we have spent in the book of Isaiah and that you will have an understanding that his judgment changes our course. It corrects us and brings us into right relationship with him. And our nation is at that moment right now where that course correction makes all the difference, and you are a part of it. And we speak these things today in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.